James Harper was a Special Forces soldier discharged from the military after being caught using steroids. He had taken them to cope with a chronic knee injury, but the Army dismissed him without compensation. His benefits were revoked, including health care and pension. Although the decision was harsh, James did not fight it. He still wanted to serve, but he respected the rules and accepted his superior's judgment. Life after the military, however, proved difficult. He struggled to find steady work, and with no income, he spent most of his time at home with his wife Brienne and their 8-year-old son Jack. Brienne tried to keep his spirits up, reminding him that they would face their problems together. He needed another way to survive. This is The Contractor. Even so, James felt useless. Bills piled up, debt grew, and the interest weighed heavier each month. He knew his family's future was in danger if he did not find a way out. Things worsened when tragedy struck close to home. One night, while James was repairing the roof, Brienne told him their friend Mason had died by suicide. Like James, Mason had lost his military career. This was not the first time one of James's former comrades had taken the same path. The losses were so frequent that Brienne refused to attend Mason's funeral. Her fear grew stronger. She worried James might follow Mason, especially since his own father had also disappeared after leaving the military. James understood her fear but swore he would never do the same. He promised Brienne that he would not vanish or die the way Mason and his father had. The next day, James attended Mason's funeral. There, he ran into an old military friend, Mike. After the service, Mike invited James over for dinner at his new house. James agreed, glad for the chance to see Mike's wife and kids again. During dinner, Mike caught up with James but also revealed his real reason for the invitation. He knew James was struggling financially and offered him a way out. Mike worked for a private military company and suggested James join. The company was legitimate, led by a former soldier, and the pay was good. Faced with mounting debt, James accepted. Mike soon introduced James to Rusty, the company's leader. Rusty explained that their missions focused on national security and were backed by the government. At the time, they had an operation in Berlin that could last 2 to 3 weeks, with Mike leading the team. Rusty also promised James a $50,000 check up front. The offer was too good to refuse, and James agreed. When James told Brienne about the job, she was upset. She feared it would be dangerous, but she had no way to stop him. The family needed the money, and James was determined. Soon after, James left for Germany without saying goodbye to his son. Following Rusty's instructions, he checked into a Berlin hotel and waited. A few minutes later, another agent named Katya arrived to brief him. His first assignment was solo surveillance. He had to track their target, Professor Salim Mohsen, a retired virologist suspected of developing biological weapons for Al-Qaeda. The organization provided James with a camera, a car, and all the equipment he needed. James began surveillance that same night. For days, he observed Salim's movements, often working in heavy rain. Yet he uncovered little evidence. All he saw was a man devoted to his wife and 2 children. He also noted Salim's regular trips to a laboratory, where shipments of pigs were being delivered. One morning, James overheard Salim speaking at a public payphone. Salim said the results were incredible, but he suspected someone in their branch had another agenda. He warned that the research had to be protected or everyone involved would be in danger. Not long after, James received orders to end his surveillance. He was told to report to a warehouse that served as a temporary hideout. There, he reunited with Mike, Katya, and another agent named Bobby. Mike laid out the plan. They would infiltrate Salim's lab, interrogate him, and secure his research. The lab had moderate security, but the guard station was linked to the Berlin police. They needed a guard's thumbprint to bypass the biometric lock. The plan was simple. Mike, James, and Bobby would go inside while Katya kept the getaway car ready. That night, the team moved out. As expected, entry was easy. The guard surrendered at gunpoint, and they forced him to open the doors. Inside, the lab was silent and empty. They found Salim working alone. The agents interrogated him about who else had access to his research. Shaken, Salim admitted that only his assistants and investors knew. He allowed them to copy the data from his computers without resistance. Then the final order arrived. Salim was to be killed, and the lab destroyed to make it look like an accident. Mike divided the tasks. He and Bobby would prepare the fire. James was told to handle Salim. Salim panicked. He begged James to spare him, claiming he was developing a vaccine, not a weapon. James dismissed the plea as a lie. With death near, Salim confessed one last detail. He had stored a copy of his research in a safety deposit box. He urged James to release it someday, because it could save millions of lives. James gave no answer. He injected Salim, who collapsed unconscious. The team then set fire to a room and left through the back road, where Katia was waiting with a car. Their escape did not last. Police forces closed in, and a gunfight erupted. Bobby was killed instantly, Katia was captured, and on Mike's orders, James executed her to prevent her from being taken alive. Amid the chaos, Mike was hit and left badly wounded. Knowing they could not survive if they stayed, James threw a flash grenade to create an opening, then carried Mike toward a nearby lake. The lake connected to an underground pipe that led into a storm drain, where they finally rested, hidden from the police pursuit. Mike's condition was dire. He had lost a dangerous amount of blood, forcing James to perform an emergency transfusion on the spot. Luckily, they had prepared for this kind of situation. Once Mike stabilized, James faced his own setback. His knee injury flared up, making it hard to even stand. They decided James would remain in the drain to recover, while Mike would leave with the recovered data. Before leaving, Mike told James to meet him at the Salvina Hotel in 2 days. He promised to arrange everything they needed to return to the United States. By midday, James pushed himself to move again. He smeared mud on his body for camouflage, crept through the forest, and eventually found a camper van. Inside were food and clothes. After taking what he needed, he changed and made his way into the city. But when he arrived at the hotel, Mike was missing. The only thing waiting for him was a fake passport for his return trip. James stayed several days, but Mike never appeared. Growing suspicious, James searched the city and called Rusty to report what happened. Rusty claimed Mike had never made it back to the city, suggesting something had gone wrong after he left the storm drain. Rusty told James the mission was compromised. His only instruction was to return home. He ordered James to go to Elson Bridge, where agents would pick him up. James obeyed, but as he waited at the bridge, doubts surfaced. If Mike had never made it back, then who left the passport for him at the Salvina Hotel? Rusty's story no longer added up. James began to suspect Mike had been killed, and the agents waiting for him were there to eliminate him too. His suspicion proved correct when the agents opened fire. James dove into the river, fought back by killing one attacker on the riverbank, then escaped into an underground tunnel. There he set up ambushes, eliminating the agents one by one, but spared one for interrogation. Under questioning, the captured agent admitted they were all former Marines recruited by Rusty. Rusty had promised they would be working to save lives, but that was a lie. Their real orders were to kill, including James himself. Racked with guilt, the agent tried to make amends before dying, giving James the contact information of someone who could take him to a safe house and warning that returning home was no longer possible. James did not use the contact right away. Instead, he went to Salim's widow. At her home, he threatened her, demanding the copy of Salim's research data. He warned that if she refused, he would harm her children. Reluctantly, she led him to a bank where Salim had stored the backup. The data was saved on an iPad, which also contained a video. James took the iPad, stepped away to a safe spot, and played the video. On screen, Salim explained his work. He confirmed what he had said earlier. His research was not about biological weapons but about an H5N1 vaccine. He planned to distribute it for free if it succeeded, but powerful interests wanted to profit from it instead. The revelation shattered James. Overcome with guilt, he broke down in tears, realizing he had killed an innocent man. Yet the damage was irreversible. With no other option, he called the number the dying agent had given him and arranged a pickup at a remote location. The following night, a man arrived at the meeting point. Though hesitant, James got into his car. Within moments, he was knocked unconscious. When James woke up, he was weak and disoriented inside a safe house. The man introduced himself as Virgil, a Samaritan who had taken him in. Virgil cared for James until he recovered, providing shelter and meals. One evening, over a steak dinner, James and Virgil spoke about their pasts. Virgil revealed he had lived in the safe house for 13 years, leaving his family behind and devoting his life to helping others as atonement for the killings he committed during his military service. Their quiet dinner was cut short when a gunshot shattered the night. The bullet struck Virgil, killing him instantly. James dove for cover, realizing Rusty's men had found him. Thinking quickly, he lit a candle, opened the gas line, and let the fumes spread before slipping out. Moments later, the safe house exploded, killing the intruders. James took Virgil's car and drove straight to the airport. Staying in Germany was no longer possible. Using the passport Mike had left at the Salvina Hotel, he returned to the United States. Back home, James went to see Mike's wife, intending to tell her about Mike's death. To his shock, Mike himself opened the door, alive and unharmed. James immediately suspected him of being part of the conspiracy. He left without saying much, then prepared weapons to confront him the next day. James tailed Mike to a parking lot, but Mike had already noticed. He ambushed James, knocking him off his motorcycle with a kick. Gun drawn, Mike was ready to finish him until he saw who it was. The sight of James stunned him. Rusty had told him James was dead, which was why he never returned to the Salvina Hotel. Mike then revealed what James had not known. The stolen data had never been about biological weapons. It was a vaccine. Mike had known this all along, but chose to lie. James exploded with anger, unable to understand how Mike could kill a man who had been working to save millions of lives, all for money. Overcome with guilt and furious at Rusty for deceiving him, Mike agreed to help James take revenge. Their plan was simple. Mike would drive into Rusty's compound as usual, with James hidden in the trunk. No one would suspect him. Once inside, Mike would create chaos by shooting Rusty's men, drawing attention while James slipped into the house. The plan unfolded as intended. James fought through the guards and pushed forward. But during the fight, Rusty shot Mike, fatally wounding him. Mike managed to return fire, injuring Rusty so badly that he could not flee. When James found him, Rusty sat helpless. James ended it with a single shot. Mike's wound, however, was beyond saving. He died in the car as James tried to get him out. With no other choice, James cremated his body along with the car. With Rusty gone, James finally reunited with his family. The story closed with him calling out his son's name. So the moral of the story is don't trust shady bosses with too good to be true jobs, or you'll end up broke, guilty, and blowing up safe houses instead of enjoying steak dinners.